So we're on page 22a, and we learned yesterday a number of stories about great tzaddikim, special people, special mitzvahs that people did. We learned also about making decrees, setting a gezerah of a fast day, even though logically the fast day is not, it wouldn't be applicable. So, for example, one of the cases was that one of the cases of the fast day had to do with one of the cases of the fast day had to do with 3 people dying in one day, and seemingly that doesn't fit the ruling that a plague is when 3 people die in 3 separate days, not if 3 people die in one day. But the Gemara came up with a understanding that there's room to say that, according to one opinion at least, if you have 3 people die in one day, then for sure there's reason to set a fast. That was one of the cases. And then the Gemara talked about the fact that the place of a person is not what gives him honor. It's the person who it's the person who gives honor to his place. The source of that was the Shechina. Interesting Gemara about the Shechina. When it leaves, the place doesn't have its holiness. And so you see, it's really the person who gives honor to the place. And then the Gemara talked about there's a certain element of lineage that the Gemara said if one rabbi wanted to move to the other, logically it should be the one that has more lineage, should be the one that stays put, and the other one goes to him, because having a special lineage has a special merit. It's considered an important, special thing, and maybe it's lineage is only good possibly if the person himself is righteous, but if the person himself is righteous and then he also has special lineage, that makes it that he has a certain benefit, a certain advantage over the other person. Then the Gemara talked about there was a dever, there was a plague in Surah. In the neighborhood of Rav, there wasn't any plague. So in Surah, there was a plague, but Rav's neighborhood didn't have it. And they thought it's because of Rav. They found out that there's really someone else that it was really in his merit, and that is someone who used to lend the hoe and the shovel for burials. And then they said there was a fire in Drakehart. And the Gemara says that in Rav Huna's area, the fire didn't spread. And so the Gemara said they thought it was Rav Huna's merit, and they found out that's because there's a woman who opens up her, I guess, Friday afternoon, or does it not say that? 1 second. That she would open up her house and let anyone come and cook in her fire. She anyway lit her fire, but she would allow everyone else to take advantage, all the neighbors. Then the Gemara says, so that was a great merit, and in that merit, there was no fire in that neighborhood. Now they told Rav Yehuda that there are locusts, and he immediately made a fast. And they said, what do you mean there's no destruction yet? He said, if they didn't come with their own Seidah Laderech, if they didn't bring with them any provisions, then we got to make sure we got to be worried already, because they're going to be eating up our crops. They said, they said to Rav Yehuda that there's moisna, there's a deadly plague among the pigs, and he established a fast. And they said, what's the reason? Just because there's a destruction among pigs. And they said, is it because if there's a plague amongst pigs, does that mean that it's probably going to affect other kosher animals? And the Gemara says, no, it might affect people, because pigs and people have similar digestive tracts. And therefore, it's possible that a person could catch some plague that's amongst pigs, and therefore there's reason to already establish a fast day. I guess this is connected to as well the fact that in business, you're not allowed to have a business of selling non-kosher food. And so the Gemara is surprised just because there's a plague amongst pigs. It can't be that people have pigs and they're selling and they're doing business with pigs. So it's not really affecting the Jewish community. Well, according to Jewish law, you're allowed to sell something if by mistake it comes into your hand, but you can't make a whole business out of treif. And so here the Gemara is like surprised. Why would he make a fast just because pigs? It's not only is it not affecting people or animals, it's not affecting business people, because you can't really have such a business. The Gemara answered that they have could affect people. Then they told Shmuel that there's a deadly plague in Beit Choizoi. So he decreed a fast, and they said to him, but what do you mean it's far away? And he said that there's nothing that's going to block it from coming to this area, and therefore it's ultimately going to get here. There's not a mabra, the pasuk lay. There's no river crossing that will stop it from coming. Then they told Rav Nachman that there's a deadly plague in Eretz Yisrael. He made a fast even though he lived in Babylon. So he said if the mistress, the land of Israel, is having a fast, is having a plague, so for sure the maidservant is going to be in danger as well. So the Gemara says, what about if both are considered maidservants, like one place outside of Israel relative to another place? So the Gemara implied that in such a situation, you don't have to decree a fast. If one city has a plague and another city doesn't, sounds like that's not a problem. It's only if the mistress of Eretz Yisrael has a plague, then we got to be worried about Bavel. But if some other city in Babylon has a plague, we shouldn't have to worry about another city. But the Gemara says, but we find that Shmuel made a fast, even though it was two cities which could be considered both maidservants. In other words, they're both in Bavel, Neherdah and Beit Choizoi. They're both cities in Bavel. So the Gemara answered that there's a lot of travel. There's caravans that go between these cities, and therefore, even though it's a different city and there's a distance between them, but the fact is that that would be a reason to establish a fast. If there wasn't a caravan, then maybe there would be no reason to establish a fast, because a different city, they're both considered maidservants. But because there's caravans that come between these cities, therefore that would be a reason to establish a fast. And if one is plagued, the other one might catch the plague as well. And then the Gemara talked about this very interesting story of three people who used to get greetings from Hashem. Abba Umna, this bloodletter, who would get daily greetings from the Mesifta Derakia, from the Heavenly Academy. He would get greetings, whatever that means. And Abaye would get greetings every Friday. And Rava would get greetings every Erev Yom Kippur. So the Gemara says that Abaye was depressed because why is Abba Umna getting such special attention from the heavenly academy and not him, which is an interesting thing. We know in the Torah and the Ten Commandments, we're not allowed to be jealous. So how does that fit? And I think Ezra was touching upon this yesterday. It seems surprising. Why should he be jealous? If one of the mitzvahs is not to be jealous, you're not allowed to be jealous. So it seems that the prohibition of jealousy is something physical in physical things. At least in Hasidic writings, it always says that it is good to be jealous in holy matters.
Spiritual things.
What do you say, Jeffrey?
Spiritual things.
Spiritual things and holy things and spiritual things, there is a benefit to be jealous. And as it says, Marbe Kinas Soifrim Tarba Chochma, the jealousy of scribes actually is very beneficial. The scribes, meaning scholars, the jealousy, Kinas Soifrim Tarba Chochma, it adds in their knowledge because they try harder, they study more. So it seems from that, that with the understanding is that we are meant to have, it's good to be jealous in spiritual matters. There's a vart in the Aleinu prayer. It says, Bashomaya mimal vial haaretz mitachas, that when it comes to heavenly matters, you should look up, look at people greater than you. Vial haaretz, on physical matters, vial haaretz mitachas, look at people that are lower than you, that have less than you. That in heavenly things, you should always look to someone who is greater, and you'll strive for more. But Valaretz and earthly matters, mitachas, you look at people that are lower than you, and don't be jealous. So the thing is, Abayi was jealous of, or he's at least depressed about Abba Umna getting this special attention from the Masifta Derakia. So it says,
Rabbi, but where does it say that he has a right to keep on testing the individual and put him on trial?
Right.
I understand what you're saying, that someone should be jealous of someone else's learning in order to strive and everything else. But nowhere that I know of do they mention that you're allowed to keep on testing the individual and putting him on trial, so to speak. What you should, if you want to strive, great, strive. It's not a problem. It's on you. You become better, but it's not up to you to put someone else to the test.
I hear what you're saying. You're not talking from a halachic perspective. You're talking from a practical perspective. If you don't want God to test you, you shouldn't be testing other people. And the fact that he's testing other people is, that seemingly is not a very smart thing to do, because it's sort of bringing judgment against yourself. Is that more or less what you're saying? In other words, there's no rule in the Torah you're not allowed to test someone.
So I mean, if you want to say it that way, yes. But I'm saying from a standpoint of interpersonal relationships, if you feel yourself to be lower than somebody else, then you strive put the onus on yourself to get better. But you don't test somebody else to find out why he's better than you. That to me is not jealousy of spiritual matters, but it's jealousy of physical matters.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm not exactly, at least the way I understand your question is the way I worded it. I'm not exactly following the way, but I think more or less, I think I get the point of your question. In other words, I do think that it is spiritual matters, but nevertheless, I still think it's a good question. The way I understand this is not that he's going to test him, but more he's trying to figure him out. In other words, he's not putting him on test. Let's, the way he should answer this is, this is the right answer, that's the wrong answer. You're just trying to like figure out what is the uniqueness of this individual. So he's throwing him different curveballs just to see what is unique about this person. So you know what I mean? I don't see it as like a way of, he's testing him to see, did he fail here? Did he fail there? I see it more of a research rather than a test. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to research the person. They're trying to figure out this person. Like what's this unique? What are his traits? What are his what is so special about this person? So that's the way I understand it. Testing someone, I agree. I think that would be inappropriate and not. It's not. God doesn't expect us to go testing each other. And put people through tests, especially if we don't want to go through tests. But here, at least the way I understand it, is he's trying to get a feel of what is this person all about. But that again, yeah.
Why not just go and talk to him? Why send students to steal stuff from him and try and sell it back to him? And see that the man has a midat hamim on and this to me is I'm sorry to say the word, but very doesn't show seichel on the part of the individual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, my understanding is that if you ask someone what is so unique about you, I don't think they're, especially someone who's a little humble, they're not going to tell you straight out, what's so unique about me? I give charity, even money I don't have, I borrow to give charity. And no one's going to tell you that. Or, you know what I mean? Even if they do such a thing, people aren't like running to share with you their good deeds. So especially the holier they are, the more sneos they are the more modest they are with their good deeds. So therefore, the only way to figure people out was to and see them in real life. And so that's what the Gemara shares with us, some of the things that they saw when they met up with him, and they saw how he dealt with different things that was considered a very unique. In other words, I don't know if he would have been angry at them if he would have failed. It was more to figure him out. Like, what is the unique thing? In other words, I wouldn't have been so nice when someone tries to sell me something they stole from me. You know what I mean? So is that wrong not to be nice to someone who steals something from you? I don't know if that's wrong, but he went above and beyond. So this is where, in other words, it wasn't really a test to see if he's failed or succeeded, because no matter what he didn't do anything wrong. But nevertheless, he did shine, and he outshined anyone. It was unique to see this special humility that he had with the chutzpah that someone would have to steal something and try to sell it, and yet he wasn't angry at such chutzpah. I mean, that's quite impressive. But anyway, that's my thought. Definitely, listen. These are Agadata Gemaras. These are story Gemaras that have a lot of hidden secrets in them, and there's definitely deeper insights that can be learned from these stories. But let's continue in the meantime. So this Abba Umna would have these greetings every day, and Abaye was jealous, or he felt depressed. Felt depressed that Abba Umna has it every day. So they told him, "Listen, you're a teacher, Abaye. You don't have a business like he does. And because of that, you're not able to do what he does. He has a certain business that he's in, and the way he runs it, he's unique. He's able to really do a huge mitzvah. You have your job as a teacher or as a someone who studies Torah, and you're not in the same position as he. He's in a position to be able to do unique good deeds. So what was his unique deeds? That it says that he would always, when they came for bloodletting, they would have the men separate, the women separate. He would have a special garment, so he wouldn't have to gaze at a woman's body when he's bloodletting her. And had a little slit where he would, make the incision in the vein, but he wouldn't gaze at her because she was basically covered over, and he didn't take money for people. He just had a bucket, and people who paid. People who didn't want to embarrass anyone. If someone didn't have money, they just wouldn't pay. And if there was a Torah scholar, used to not only he didn't accept money, but he would always give them some coins. They should go and get healthy. So so that was the understanding of Abaye, and the students, that they understood this is why Abu Umna was merited to have this greeting from the Heavenly Academy. Now, Abaye said, "Let me send some students. I want to mivdike, check him out." So he sent these two students to check him out, and he sat them down. He gave them to eat and drink. He gave them this piece of wool, or some type of a woolen mattress to sleep on. And the next morning, so it says, they rolled up the mattresses, and they went to the marketplace, and they found him, and they said, tell us what this is worth. And he said, it's worth this and this. They said, what do you mean? It's probably worth more. He said, well, this is what I bought it for. And they said, this is really yours. We took it from your house. And so basically they admitted, like, that they were playing a little game and just trying to see what was unique about him. And they said, "B'matusa minach, we beg of you. B'may chashad tinan, what did you think? What were you suspecting when we had the audacity to try to sell you what you were so kind to lend us and let us sleep on your mattresses, and what were you thinking?" So he said to them, I assumed there was some type of pidyon shvuyim. In the olden days, it was much more common that people would be thrown into the dungeon if they didn't pay their rent. And there was always people coming around to collect money to save a family from pay their rent in order to save them from being thrown in the dungeon. So the pidyon shvuyim, ransoming captives. So I assume that you probably needed money, and you were embarrassed to tell me, maybe because this is someone who's a relative, so you were embarrassed. And therefore you were selling it, wanted to get money and selling it to me. So they said to him, okay, now you could take it back. We finished. We accomplished our mission. So he said to them, I already removed my thought of I already assumed that it's charity, and therefore I've given up hope from it, so to speak, and I've already committed it to charity. So therefore, I can't take it back. The Gemara then says that Rava was jealous of Abaye. So they told him, it's enough for you that you protect the entire city with your merit. So that itself is also a very interesting line. That how does that, make Rava feel better? Like, why didn't he merit to have the Heavenly Academy every week? Instead, he would have it only once a year. And the Gemara says because the whole city of his was in his merit, and therefore he should be satisfied with that. So the commentaries struggle. They ask, what exactly does this mean? And they say that Rava's city was a very wicked people in his city, and he would protect them. And I guess the day of Erev Yom Kippur showed. In other words, he was having that revelation to show that it was all in his merit, that they're going to be judged for the merit, all because of him. And something along those lines. Let me just pull up over here. There's the commentaries, of course, ask on this Gemara, like, what exactly, how does this answer the question? And
Rabbi, while you're looking it up, you want me to say what the Rabbi Steinsaltz says?
Just give me 1 second, because it's right here.
Okay.
It's Yitzchok that this is what with this that they would greet him on Erev Yom Kippur. They showed him that he was protecting the people, that they shouldn't be punished all year round, even though they were wicked. And they said, because with this, that you are protecting them, from on Yom Kippur, that should be enough to fill what you're missing out, that you're only getting it once a year, because you're getting a benefit of your whole city is benefiting from you. So that's one of the explanations. Yes, David, what is the Steinsaltz say? David?
Yeah, basically, it is basically the same thing. It says that Rava was distressed due to the fact that Abaye received greetings from heaven every Erev Shabbos, while Rava received such greetings only once a year on Erev Yom Kippur. And the footnote says that what you were saying before, how Rava lived in a very evil city. People merited destruction. This is Gemara Rosh Hashanah 17a. It was only Rava's uncommonly righteous behavior that spared them punishment.
Mm-hmm. Right. They bring another interpretation here, that if Rava would get greetings more often, it would have created prosecution against him, and therefore, it's enough that he gets his revelation on Erev Yom Kippur. Otherwise, the prosecuting angels will try to bother him. No, basically, what that means is that because he's protecting these wicked people, there's a lot of prosecution. There's a lot of reason why the angels are not happy with him. So to get it once once a year was enough, that he shouldn't have this problem. Okay, so anyway, that's the story, and I think that's where we're up to, where we got up to yesterday. So we're on page 22a, and we're up to Rav Broka, which is the second wide line in the Gemara. It's maybe about 10 lines from the top of the page, or Broka Chayzah. And if you're in the art scroll, it's 22a1 on the first column, the last paragraph. Rabreka Chayzah, Rabreka from the place called Bei Chayzai. Have a shchiach b'shuka de Bei left. He was frequent in the marketplace of Bei left. Have a shchiach Eliyahu Gabei. Eliyahu Hanavi was often by him. He appeared to him often. Amar Lei, so Breka said to Eliyahu Hanavi, he said, Ika b'haishuka bar alma diyasi, is there anyone in this marketplace that is called a ben olam haba? A ben olam haba means someone who is going to merit the world to come. Now, what does that mean? Every yid is basically a ben olam haba. Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelik l'olam haba. So different interpretations how to fit that with this Gemara. Either it means that everyone is going to get olam haba, but they might have to go through Gehenna first. And what he was asking Eliyahu, is there anyone here that's going to go directly to olam haba without going through Gehenna? That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that there's people who are ben olam haba. They are people who have the major portion. Their portion is a much bigger portion. The other people are considered like small investors. They have a small percentage. The ben olam haba is the person who's like a major investor. There must be some term for that, which I don't know. But someone who's one of the major investors in a company, he's called a ben olam haba. The other people are like the smaller, they have small investments. And so everyone has a portion, but is there anyone that's the ben olam haba that has that's really like a holder, a major stockholder, So the Gemara says, he asked if there's anyone that's a ben olam haba, and Amar lei loy. Eliyahu Hanavi said no. Not in this marketplace, not now. In the meantime, Gavra, he saw a certain person that was wearing black shoes. And in those days, you have to understand that there were different customs for Goyim and for Yidden. And the Goyim would wear black shoes. And Yidden were specifically did not wear black shoes because they didn't want to follow b'chukos hagoyim in the traditions of the goyim. There's a mitzvah in the Torah of b'chukos sehem lo seilechu. Do not go in their statutes. In the statutes of the goyim, you shouldn't go. And what that means is that different customs that the goyim did, we specifically don't do them. So, for example, it used to be a custom that goyim had mohawk haircuts. So a yid would not be allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go with a way of the way of the goyim. So here also it's a little surprising. This man who Eliyahu Hanavi just told Rav Breka that this is the guy who's going to merit olam haba. He's the guy who's going straight to olam. He's wearing black shoes, which is the way of the goyim. And also, he's not wearing the string of tchelas beglime in his garment, meaning he's not wearing tzitzis. So so Reb Breka obviously is a little surprised. He's not wearing tzitzis, and he's also wearing these black shoes. Amar lei haibar alma da asihu. So Elio told him this guy is the merits of the world to come. Rohat Basre, Breaker ran after him. Amar lei my oivdach. What do you do? Tell me a little about yourself. Amar lei zil ha'idna b'salamacher. He said, go today and come back tomorrow. L'machar amalei my oivdach. So the next day he came there and he saw him. He says, my oivdach. What do you do? Tell me a little about yourself. Amar lei zandukana ana. He said that I am a shomer beis asurim. I am a guard for the prisons, for the prison. And I lock up the men separately and the women separately. And I put my bed in between these two rooms that have the men and the women, so they shouldn't come to do anything that's forbidden. When I see a Jewish girl that the goyim are putting their eyes upon, they're gazing upon, they're looking, focusing on, I'm moiser nefesh. I give my life up. I risk my life, and I save her. One day, one day there was a Jewish girl with us. That the goyim were looking upon. Shakli derdaya de chamra. I took the dregs of wine. Ushadayla b'shipula. I threw them on the area of her skirt to make it look like she's bleeding. Va'amri, and I said, Distanahi, she's menstruating, she's a nida. And this way, they didn't want to have anything to do with her. In the olden days, people would consider someone who's a nida to be like their tamei. That's the way even goyim, they considered it to be like a disgusting thing. So they stayed away from her. So basically, this man is very careful about inyanim of tznius, of modesty, separating men and women, saving Jewish women, risking his life to save Jewish women. So Amar Lei, so Rebreika said to my time, why don't you have tzitzis? Ramis Misane Yochme, why do you put on black shoes? So Amar Lei, Ayilna v'nafikna beini nachrim. I come and I go amongst the goyim. So they shouldn't know that I'm Jewish. When they make a decree against the Jews, and I quickly inform the rabbis, and they ask Hashem for mercy. They are able to be mavatel. They tear up. They cause the decree to be annulled. My time, and then Rebreika asked him another question. He said, "Why, when I told you, what do you do? When I asked you yesterday, you said go away now and come back tomorrow." So he said, "Why was that? Why did you tell me go away and come back tomorrow?" Amar Lei, he said to him, because the goyim, the government had just made a decree against the Jews. And I said to myself, let me first go immediate Beresha first. I will tell the rabbis that they should daven to Hashem for mercy on this matter.
Rabbi.
Yes.
It just gives you an idea of not judging a person. He saw the person not wearing tzitzis, and he saw the person wearing the different shoes, and he could have made a judgment for the negative and thought, oh, this guy's doing all kinds of bad stuff. And meanwhile, the guy's doing this for righteous reasons.
Right. 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 Definitely very interesting thing we're seeing here, that you got to be careful when you judge people. The Gemara continues and says that there was another two people that Elio said they are also fit for the world to come. Another two people came. Asi Amar Le, Elio came again and said, Hanach Nami b'nei Alma Dasin. These two are also destined. They're ben Olam Habas. Azalagabayu. So Rebreika went to them, Amar Lahu, and he said to them, Mayav Daichu, what do you do? Amar Amrule, Inshi Baduchianan. We are people who make jokes, comedians. We cheer up those that are depressed. Inami also, Kichazinan Beitrei dislike Tigra Badayu. If we see two people involved in a fight, Tarchinan Vavdina Lushlama, we work hard and to bring peace to them. So even though joking is not always considered a holy thing, but if it's used for a holy purpose, then it's considered something very positive. Like it says, Rava used to make a joke before they would learn Torah to his students, and by doing that, he opened up their minds to listen to the class.
Rabbi Steinsaltz says that it said that for this type of behavior, one enjoys the profits of his actions in this world, and yet his reward is not diminished in the world to come.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow. Now, there was a question on the previous Gemara that, according to halacha, you're not allowed to do things that are to go in the ways of the goyim. So this guy had an excuse, but it's a biblical command, and transgressing a biblical command seems a little surprising. How is he allowed to transgress a biblical command in order to spread word about decrees, and in order to help out these keep tznius, and seemingly, if it was rabbinic, maybe you could say that the rabbis didn't establish their rule in such a scenario. But we do find this Gemara seems to, and not just here, this question is asked in other places as well. Someone who's karev l'malcha, someone who's close to the king, they seem to like. There is a story of a rabbi who would wore his hair was cut in a way of the goyim, and the reason was because he was karev l'malchus. And the question over there as well is, how is that a good excuse? Just because he's connected to the king, that shouldn't allow him to transgress a biblical commandment. Here, maybe you could answer that this was a case of, maybe it's a case of pikuach nefesh. Maybe you could say that there's pikuach nefesh involved. Maybe he's saving people. Maybe that could be an understanding. Now, as he's wearing black shoes, which is against it's a biblical command not to go in the ways of the goyim. So this question is asked by the Beis Yosef in his commentary on Torah. He talks about this in Shulchan Aruch, like what is this heter? And one of the answers he gives is that the Torah doesn't say clearly what does it mean you're not allowed to go in the ways of the goyim. So it's the rabbis who really interpreted what it means. And their interpretation allows them to limit it because they're the ones interpreting it. They have the ability to limit it to certain scenarios and allow certain scenarios because they're the ones who are interpreting. Because the Torah is so vague, if the Torah was very clear, then fine, then they wouldn't be able to change it. But because the Torah is very vague when it talks about in the statutes of the goyim, you're not allowed to go. So he says that is a reason why the rabbis have the ability to permit certain things in certain scenarios. Someone who's close to the king, or situations that need to have a heter to wear these black shoes and so on. That would be this would be a heter because it's considered more rabbinic than biblical because it's the rabbis who are interpreting what it really means because it's so vague. So that's one of his answers.
We see now that everybody wears black shoes. We don't see the Jews walking around with white straps and white shoes.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything because the goyim switched. Once the goyim switch, then there's no such rule anymore. Once the goyim switch and they're wearing their polka dot purple things and who knows what, there's no set rules anymore because goyim wear all types of shoes and who knows what, whatever Nike comes out with, So so it doesn't apply anymore in that sense. Mm-hmm. But there were Hasidic groups that don't want to wear a tie. They say it's more of a goyisha. It's like a goyisha clothing, a tie. There's such a I think there's such a concept. Okay. Anyway, the Gemara continues here and says. Al elu masriyan b'chol makom. For these type of situations, we cry out in all places, b'chol makom. And the Mishnah said, when there's some type of a blast of wind that's going to cause the grain to be affected, or this yellowing of the grain, or the locusts, different types of locusts. So the Gemara now brings up Brisa, Tanu Rabbanan al elu masriyan b'chol makom. On these we cry out everywhere. Al shidafa, in the wind blast, and the next case is al bali yirakoin, yellowing or greening, and val arbe chosil, different types of locusts, val chayara, wild animals that are attacking people, and bekiva imer al shidafin val yirakoin kolshu. For the wind blast and the yellowing, we cry out even for a tiny amount of kolshum. Arba v'chosil, for these type of locusts, afilu like nira be'eretz Yisrael al knaf echad. Even if all we find is one wing, knaf echad, that it's oif echad shall oisei min ke'in tzipor kol kanaf. Rashi says that even if there's one bird of that type, of either of these type of locusts, masriyan aleyan, we cry out over them. The Gemara then says, "V'al chaya," for dangerous animals, the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis learned, Chaya Rosh Amru, when we talk about dangerous beasts, that it's Bizman Shehim Meshulachas, when it's it's a unusual and it's a sign of a plague. Masriyan alei. Enu Meshulachas. If it's not something that's like sent from Hashem, just like it's more of a regular thing. It's Eina Meshulachas, like the natural behavior. Ein Masriyan alei, we don't cry out for it. Ezu Meshulachas, Bezu Sheina Meshulachas. The Brisa asks, so what is considered Meshulachas and what is not Meshulachas? So it says Nira Ba'ir Meshulachas. If they appear in the city, it's visible. If it's seen in the city, then it's Meshulachas. It's considered a sent from Hashem. B'sadeh, in the field, Eina Meshulachas. B'yoim, if it happens during the day, Meshulachas is considered it's sent from Hashem. B'layla, at night, Eina Meshulachas, it is not considered sent from Hashem special. It's considered more like usual.
Question.
Yeah.
So what happens with crops? Is that considered to be part of the city?
Say that again. What happens with crops?
Yeah. It says here that, if they come into the city, then it's sent. And if it's in the field, you know that it's not sent. What about amongst crop, when you find...
Oh, the wild animals? We're
No,
talking about wild animals.
We're only talking about wild animals. We're not talking about locusts or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I think this paragraph is all about wild animals. Chaya Rosh Amru. Wild, dangerous beasts, yeah. So it gives these examples, what is considered sent from Hashem and what is considered more natural. So by day, by night. Raza Shnei B'nei Adam V'Ratzasa Acharehen. It saw two people and pursued them. So Mishulachas, that's Hashem sending a plague. Nech Beis Mivnei, if it hid from them, then it's Eina Mishulachas. It's not considered sent from Hashem. It's more natural that they're afraid of people. Tarfa Shnei B'nei Adam, if it killed two people, V'Achla, it tore apart, I should say. V'Achla Echad Mehem, and it only ate one of them, Mishulachas, that's considered sent from Hashem. Achla Shneien, if it ate both of them, then it's considered they must be hungry. Eina Mishulachas. Also, Lagag, it went to the roof, and not Latinoik Me'arisa, and took a child from the crib, Mishulachas, that is considered a Mishulachas, a sent from Hashem. So here we have all these different cases that are considered specifically a plague from Hashem. It's not considered normal. It's unusual. We need to make a special fast for this. Gemara says, Hagufa Kasha. This is itself is a contradiction. Amrit, you said, Nirasa Be'ir Mishulachas. You said that if it appears in town, in the city, then it's considered Hashem sent it special. Loishna B'yom Loishna B'layla. Sounds like any time. Then Bahadar Amrit, and then you said that specifically, by day it's considered a sent from Hashem. But Laila ain't Mishalachas, but at night it's not. In other words, initially, the Gemara says it sounded like you were saying that all cases, whenever you see this, you see these wild animals in the city, that's automatically a sign of a plague from Hashem. And then it says, no, it's only if it happens by day. It sounds like a contradiction. So my answer is that like Kasha. It's not a contradiction. Okay, Kamar. This is what it means to say. Nira so ba'ir ba'yoim. It appears in the town during the day. Mishulachas, it is considered sent from Hashem. Be'ir balayla, ena mishulachas. If it's sent in the city at night, then it's not considered a surprising plague. It's not sent. It's natural. Inami, or also basada, in the field. Afilu bayoim ena mishulachas. Even during the day, it's surprising in the field to have wild animals. So that's what the Brisa meant to say, that in the city, it specifically has to be also by day. That's when it's considered a plague. But if it is at night, then it's even in the city, it's not considered a plague. Okay, we're going to stop here. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank